In your final project details, you probably noticed there are 6 points that are going toward a plugin that can create contact forms for you. So this is beyond users simply leaving comments after a blog post or on a page. Okay, this is a little more than that because you can customize the fields. The results will be emailed to you, and it's a very good way to gather information from your users. It's a good way to engage the users. It's just a good way in general to have different options for the users to contact you other than emailing you directly, which some of them sometimes don't prefer. So there's a couple different plugins that I'm going to recommend. The number one is Conctact Form 7. That's the one I have listed in the final project details as the one I prefer. It doesn't have to be Conctact Form 7. It could be another contact form type of plugin that works just the same in case Conctact Form 7 has issues. So as usual, there's always an alternative. So I'm going to go to Add New Plugins. I'm already in my dashboard. I'm going to go to Add New. I already did that, sorry. I'm going to search for Conctact Form 7. Okay, now Conctact Form 7, for several of my students in other sections, has actually somehow caused an issue with the permalinks. So they've installed Conctact Form 7, they've gone to navigate their site in the main menu, and the links don't work. Okay, this is not a reason to freak out, and I will troubleshoot this in about 7 or 8 minutes once I show you how this thing works. So in case it screws up your links, I will show you what to do to fix that. So you're going to want to find the one that has like a little picture of a mountain and a little note on plugins, and I'm going to have this in a couple of other of my plugin videos. When you're going to look for a plugin, look for plugins that are updated recently. Okay, this one was last updated 3 days ago. So the issue that people are having related to the permalinks and this plugin causing problems with themes is related to your using a theme that's like 2 to 3 to 4 years old that's free. And as I've told you guys many times in this course, I'm not expecting you to buy themes. I'm not requiring you to buy themes, but I've mentioned to you that when you get these old free themes, they do cause a lot of issues because they haven't been updated with the proper scripts and coding that works with all the new plugins and the new version of WordPress and yada, yada, yada. So that's why this stuff is happening. It's not happening because I'm recommending to you crappy plugins. I mean, the ones you want to look for are the ones that have reviews that are at least into the 4s, okay, and it's been downloaded a lot, it's been updated a lot. Clearly this one at 21, almost 22 million downloads is probably a decent one. So I'm going to install, and you shouldn't have any issues here. If you're on a Mac, you should have already fixed that issue you would have with the plugins a long time ago with the codes that I have posted in week 7. So we've got the plugin running. Most of these plugins that offer the ability to build something or create something, they'll end up creating their own little section in your dashboard menu. So you can see here, I don't know if you noticed it pop up, but there's now a menu item for contact. Okay, so if you go to Contact Forms, these plugins will usually give you a bit of information on how it works. It's hard to continue developing support without this, you know, like continued donations of people. Most of these plugins are free, so they're always asking you for donations. I'm not going to make one of those today, but it's not a bad thing to do that. Getting started will usually take you to a page that'll give you a little bit of information about how the plugin works and what's happening. So contact forms and submittable fields on your site are set up through PHP, the same way a whole WordPress site is set up. So when I used to do HTML sites, I had purchased like a separate WYSIWYG form builder because these are important things to have on your pages. So you could see that this form is pretty extensive. It's got its own website with full support. We're not going to need to get into that right now today because I'm going to show you how it works right here. So every time you get it, it comes with a form that's automatically pre-built. And this contact form, if you go into it or click on edit, it will show you that it's generated for you some regular fields. Okay, this is a text field, your name, your email, your subject, your message. And then you never want to forget to put the submit button at the bottom, because if you don't hit the submit button with the contact form, it will not down here send to your email address. Okay, so the information that's set up to and associated to where it's going to go is usually automatically populated with the email that you have set up for your WordPress site. So when someone clicks the submit button, it sets it up to be sent to your email. So I'm going to take this code and put this first form just right into my contact page just to look at it, and then we're going to make a different one. So like the slider plugins, I know a lot of you have used those. What it'll do is it'll generate a code in square brackets, and this is not a code that you have to put in code view, like in text view. You can do this in WYSIWYG. So if I copy that, and you can also copy that right from the main contact forms page. Whenever you have a form, if you don't need to go back in and edit it, it'll have the code right there for you. So you can copy. You can go to pages. I've created a contact page for me already. You can put this in a page or a post. Okay, let's go edit. And I put a little blurb in here like ask us a question, tell us about yourself. I mean, this is a good reason to use contact forms. Another one is just to allow people to contact you in some way. So this one might have a few more fields than we need. I'll show it to you in a second here. All you have to do is paste in that code with this, like right in WYSIWYG view. You can see we're in visual, we're in WYSIWYG view. We don't have to do this in code view. We update, we go to view the page, and what it's done is it's put together a contact form that allows them to put their name in, their email. You can set when you create these fields whether or not they're required. They can set a subject line and type a little message in there and hit send, and it gets sent to you. And some users are more comfortable with this than actually sending you an email. And this alone is not going to get those 10 participation marks for you. Okay, using a contact form to generate some type of special customer survey that's looped into a contest or something like that, that might get you some of those points. I mean, I've talked about different examples already when I went through the big list of stuff, but you know, contests, different ways to engage the users in terms of sending in their information. You can have a photo of the month contest, and they can submit their own recipes to a recipe blog, that kind of stuff. Just different ways the user can be engaged, or adding ingredients to recipes. Anything you can think of that would engage the user. If you can show me one really good example of that, or a couple, I'm going to give you those points. But the contact forms are different. They're separate 6 points, 3 for each, and I want to see 2 of them on your site. So one of them could be a really basic one like this. In fact, I'm not going to take marks off if you use the default one, because it's not a bad form. But then I want you to make another one that could provide you with some customer survey information, some user information on the people that are going to your website. So let's go back to the dashboard, and let's do some stuff with drop downs and maybe some radio buttons. So let's get a little demographic information on our users. So I'm going to go to contact, and I'm going to go right to add new. And you can, if you're not comfortable building it from scratch, you can go and copy the code out of the original one and paste it into a new one. So let's get started with it. By default, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create it from scratch. But by default, it's going to be in English, which means English is not going to be a choice here. So make sure you're not scrolling through there looking for English. Just hit add new. Okay, and there, actually by default, it puts that stuff in there automatically. So the first thing you want to do is name the form appropriately. So I'm going to call this demographics. And this is not something that you really need to throw a bunch of keywords into. It's not really like that. It's just so you can go back to the form and you know which form it is, because you might end up making a big bunch of these. And it starts by giving you the already existing forms information. So you've got the submit button, so you won't forget to do that. You'll notice that each of the fields in the form, they've put them in paragraph breaks, and they put a line break in front of it, so they've kind of formatted it for you. So it gives you an idea of what to do. Now, I don't really need their name, so I'm going to take that right out. Okay, I don't really need their email in the survey information. I'm going to be looking for different kind of stuff. I don't need the subject either. I don't need a big open text field for their message. So the difference between some of these fields, just so you know, because we're not going to necessarily use these, a text area is something like you have here where you type the whole message out. Like you guys probably noticed when I showed you that form, it was like a big open box. The text field would be something that you'd use for your name. That's just a single line. Okay, that's the difference between those two. We're going to leave the submit button but we're actually going to do something a little different. We're going to start with a radio button. Okay, and we're going to go in here, and we're going to call the radio button gender. And what I usually do, just to make sure I understand what's what, is I do the same thing for ID in class. I just set it all as whatever the button is. And when you go to put in your choices, you can just literally type them in, hit enter, do the next choice, do the next choice. I got to put that in there, or, I wouldn't be politically correct. So put a label first, checkbox last. Yep, that's fine. Actually, these are radio buttons, but it's the same thing, checkbox, radio button. As soon as you click in these things and create them, it creates the code for the actual form field right there. So what you do is you build it here, and then you copy this, and you put it into the area, which in your page, this box right here, this is actually the area inside the page that will be considered a form area in the HTML, or I guess PHP and CSS of your actual page or post. And whenever you hit the submit button, it will capture or gather anything that's in that box. Okay, so I'm going to do something simple like that. I'm going to go right above it and start a paragraph break. And I'm going to put gender, and then I'm going to do a simple line break. So a little bit of your web workshop skills are coming in here, your basic HTML stuff. If you forget any of these codes, you can always go back to w3schools.com. Okay, I'm going to put a space in, and I'm going to go here. I'm going to do a drop down. So you can do drop down menus, and let's do one for age. So we learn a little bit about how old our users are, and let's call it age. Okay, and we can put the same thing in there for ID in class, and we can go 11 to 16. 17 to 25, 26 to 38, 39 to 45, 45 to 90. I don't know, it's pretty much over after that. So you don't need to allow multiple selections, because with age, a person should be falling into one of those categories. And I don't want to allow a blank item. Sometimes people might choose not to put anything in there, or it might not be relevant. So with a drop down, you can do a blank item. So watch this area down here. As soon as I click off the choices box, it populates all that stuff for me. So it creates it. So I can hit Control C, copy it again, go here. I can start with the paragraph break right now if I want, and put age, and go here. And then maybe city and province, right? I mean, I'm probably gearing my marketing for this website toward people in Canada. I could do city and province. You could do state too. I mean, if you were going that wide. But so these can just be basic text fields. So city. Okay. And I don't have to do the ID in the class every time. I could do a max length, like, I don't think there's going to be any cities that are longer than like 50, even 50, like 40 characters. So I could just put 40 in there. I don't really need to, I don't want people typing in like messages in the city field. So let's copy that. And I think if you don't put in a character limit, it might make it a bigger box too. So, oops, I forgot to do a line break up there. Let's do a line break. Let's do the same thing here. And just to save time, I'm not going to go and do the province. I think you guys will get the idea here. And then I have the submit button there. And then just to make sure too, this is really cool. And most of these plugins have this. I know it's annoying for the users, but one of the things you don't want, and I'm going to talk about security in a quick separate video that I do today, because I want to make sure you guys are comfortable with security. What? Really? Okay. Yeah, I guess you need to install an extra plugin to get this to work. But a CAPTCHA is one of those little form field areas where it has that kind of, it would be very hard for a computer robot to actually read what's in there, and you have to type in like the letters and the numbers you see. I'm not going to go and install that plugin right now in the middle of the video, but you could do that, and then you could insert a CAPTCHA as well. And it's good to have those security measures put into your site so you don't get people spamming you with your forms, which is kind of annoying. So down here too, a couple quick notes. You can set it up so that so that you can filter all the messages. Like set up a subject. I wouldn't make it your subject. I'd put something else in there. And then you can filter all the messages that come through into your inbox, like anything with that subject, to go to a certain folder so that you can easily kind of manage all the stuff that you get from these forms. You could do that with Gmail and Hotmail, and most email servers will allow you to do that. You can also do a second email. Okay, so it's sent to 2 people where you work or something like that. Another note about email: when you use form fields like this, it'll know if you set up an email field, if there's no @ symbol, that they haven't put an email in. It'll give them a warning. Like these plugins are very extensively coded and set up for you to work well. So once you set it up, just hit save. Okay, go to Conctact Forms, and it gives you the code right there too. I didn't have to go back to this screen. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the same screen so you can see the difference between the two, but you guys would probably create a new page to put something like this. Okay, so I'm going to go to the board head contact page, and right below that form, I'm going to enter a couple lines, put this new form, and then I'm going to go view it. Okay, so this one you could see the cities, like a short, nice, compact field. You could choose your radio buttons, male, female, other. You can choose your age. Okay, and then you hit send, and it should send to the email address that you have associated with your account unless you've changed that. Okay, notice that I didn't put anything for city, but it still let me send it because I didn't check off the box that made city a required field. That's up to you how you set that up. You're not going to be marked when you make these forms on how you set them up. I just want to see that you're using these types of tools. Okay, so once you get this all set up, if you start clicking around in the menu and you realize this form has totally screwed up your permalinks, which does happen, and I talked about that at the beginning of this little mini lecture here, you're going to want to use another form tool. Okay, so but the first thing you want to do is fix your permalinks. Okay, they're not totally broken, but you're using an old theme. You're using a dated theme. I'm sorry, you're using a theme that's like super old. Okay, and it could, because a newer form that's just been updated should not cause issues with your theme unless your theme is just lacking the coding and the updates that it needs to be compatible with these forms, which any theme in the last 1.5 years or 2 years should be fine. But if it's older than that, and this is the problem with some of these free themes. So you'd have to go to your dashboard. What you should do is go deactivate the plugin if it's screwed up your links. Okay, you'll know right away. Go to your main menu and go view your site in the browser and start navigating. If it doesn't work, this is what you should do. Deactivate the plugin. Delete the plugin and all the files. I know you spent a whole 10 minutes putting forms together. Sorry. Big deal. Okay. Go to your settings now and go to permalinks. And under permalinks, go back to default. When you go back to default, this is settings permalinks. It'll go back to the standard way that WordPress views links, which is according to the page ID or the post ID. And you scroll down and hit Save Changes. When you go to visit your site now, your links will work again. I promise, okay? I bet there's at least 1 or 2 of you in here that it did this to because you're using older themes. Akash is nodding like, yep, okay. So now that you fixed it, go back to your dashboard because I don't want it to stay that way. I want you to use, under Settings Permalinks, I want you to use post name. And what you could do to avoid this happening again, I don't think the next plugin is going to do it to you, but as soon as you hit post name, it will populate for you what you should have for custom structure, which to automatically put the post name. Click in there and then click Save. And when you go back to visit your site, your links will work. Okay, all your links will work again. And then, alternative to the plugin that I'd like you to use, which is Conctact Form 7, which I know a bunch of you that got newer themes, it actually came with this plugin. It is a very popular plugin. It's very easy to customize your forms. There are a few other ones that I think are half decent. If you go to Add New, this is one that won't cause those link issues. Okay, so if you go here and click Add New, which I already did, and just search Form Builder, 2 words. Okay. Okay, this one here, I'm not going to go through them. You know how I do it. I look at reviews and I look at how recently it's been updated and how many downloads it has. This one is actually pretty good. I've tried a few of these, and a couple of my other students that had issues with Conctact Form 7 used this one, and it actually worked quite well. So I'm going to install this one and show you some of the differences. This one's actually pretty cool. So installing plugin. Come on. Activate. So just like the other one we just used, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll notice this one has its own menu as well, like its own menu items that are built into the dashboard. Okay, it's called C-Form Builder. If you go to Manager, it gives you a whole pile of different examples. Okay, so if I go to Conctact Form 5, for example, this one actually gives you a cool looking like kind of Google Map. Like, this is actually a really easy thing to do, to insert a Google Map plugin. Like, not a plugin, but a Google Map. It's just an embedment, like a YouTube video. And it gives you name, code, like it gives you when. This is like a meeting, a scheduling a meeting kind of thing, okay? So it's a contact form built just for that. If I go back to the manager and I click on like the first one, okay, this one's for a mailing list. So if you scroll down, you'll see it has you set up for a mailing list. It's got a CAPTCHA already built in. So this one for the CAPTCHA didn't need that CAPTCHA plugin. And you can, even though they give you a bunch of these that are already set up, you can go and edit them. It's a little less user-friendly. And I'm not going to spend, I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but you can go into the form options and you'll see what you have for, you know, how it emails to you and what it's sending to you. You can edit the CSS on it, and if you go back to Manager Edit, somewhere in here you can actually change your fields, because I don't think you're stuck automatically with only the forms they give you. I think you are able to change your fields. Yeah, I think from over here, you know, you might not be able to. Form layout, form options. Yeah, see, you might have to do this in code actually. But it wouldn't actually be that hard, because you could just copy code from other forms and stick it into the ones you want to use and start combining stuff. Because I think the way this one works is it's trying to set you up. If they give you 10 different forms, they're trying to set it up so that you don't have to build them. But I like Contact Form 7 because you can actually build them. But if you're just trying to get the points on the final project, I'm showing you another option that works without screwing up your permalinks, okay, which is the form builder here, Contact Form Builder. All right, so that would conclude my little mini lecture on contact forms.